Hi, this is the fifth video in the series looking at the IGCSE Computer Science Pre-Release. This is for May 2018, Paper 2. In this one we're going to just finish off Task 2 and look at how we can finalise the customer orders. In the previous video we looked at how to sort out the stock level so it was updated when a customer made an order. And in this one we're just going to finish off Task 2. So, just taking from the task sheet, what it says is we need to add the unique estimate number to the list of order numbers, add the customer's details and today's date to the estimate details to finalise the order, and then print 2 copies, so we'll come to that in a minute. First of all, let's look at how we can get the dates in Python. So you may have come across this before. We need to import a module. There's a couple of ways of doing this. There's a time module and there's a datetime module. So I've chosen to use the datetime. And just to show you how that works, I've got a variable called now, and all that's doing really is using the module to grab the date and time from my computer at this moment. And then just to show you how that works, I'm going to print out now.month and now.day. So that's going to pull out particular items that we want from that date object. So there you go, today is the 17th of March, so it's given me the month and the day, just as an integer format like that. So a little improvement on that. If I get rid of those 2 lines, what I've got here is I've made my own list and just abbreviated the months of the year. And then what I can do is take that number and use it as an index in the list I've set up here. So hopefully that will give me today is followed by the month and then the day. So let's try that. Now it says April. Wonder if you can spot what I've done wrong there. Deliberate mistake. With our list, we've always got to remember that the indices start at 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3 is giving me April instead of March. Okay, so I'd have to subtract 1 from the index here. There we go, so I've got the correct date now. Today is March the 17th. Or alternatively, we could do that in the other order and put the 17th of March. Okay, so I'm going to use that code and copy that into my task 2, just here. And I've added a few other bits already. So it mentioned in the task that we need a unique estimate number. So I've named my variable here customer order number. I just thought I would start at 1000 rather than starting at 0, no particular reason. And then what I've got here is a loop, which I've added, a while loop, around the whole of the rest of the code that we've seen so far in the previous videos. Okay, so what I'm using here is what you might call a flag. So it's just basically a variable that I'm going to set to either true or false. And I'm going to use that as my way of knowing whether to keep repeating the loop or not. So I'm setting it to true in the first instance because I want the loop to work at least once. So while keep going, another way of writing that would be while keep going is equal to true. Oops. While keep going equals true. That would do exactly the same thing, because if you've done anything on the topic of binary logic, if that's a true variable, what I'm effectively saying here is, or what Python will evaluate is while true equals true, which it obviously does. So I actually don't need to put that part in there. Just a little side note as well, notice you do have to use a capital for the values true and false, the Boolean values. That's about the only time in Python that a keyword has a capital letter. And you'll find, like in this IDE Thonny, it's highlighted in a purple colour, a bit like the loops are. So let's look down at the bottom of my loop to see where that keep going variable is going to get changed. So at the end of all the details, so we've seen this part before in the previous video where it is printing out the user's choices. What I've added now is a question. So would the customer like to make another order? You may have seen this before. \n is just a command that means do a new line. That's called the escape character. So Python knows that the following character is not to be printed in the normal way, but those two together give me a new line. So that was just to space my output out a little bit. And then I've just made a little variable here which takes in the user's input. So I ask them the question, make another order, question mark, and then they're either going to type something like yes or no or y or n. So to try and catch every option there, basically if they type anything negative like no or n or nope, or you could add a few more if you wanted in there, I'm going to set that value keep going to false, and that will stop the loop from running. If they type anything else than the things I've put in this little list, then the loop is going to repeat, so the customer is saying they do want to make another order. Okay, so I think that's covering quite a bit more of task 2. So just checking the task sheet, that's pretty much it, although it also has this vague point that says add the customer's details. So it doesn't tell us what they want from that. I'm just assuming that the name will be sufficient there, but you could add further things if you want to. So way back up here, somewhere inside the loop, here we go. I just went for name equals input, please enter your name. And oh yeah, so I put in a line there, I'd forgotten this part. So I've printed out their name and I've given them today's date and month and printed out the order number before we even enter any of the details. Okay, and then back down at the bottom we have this section already. So it said total cost for this PC. Look, there's our \n again, and I've just used that to space out the output a little bit. It was in dollars, don't forget in the question. So I'm finding the total customer cost, and it said to add 20% in task 1, so presumably that's just tax or maybe the profit that we're making, isn't it? So an easy way to do that is just multiply by 1.2. That gives us the extra 20%. Then if you've done it the same way as me and stored the customer's choices in a list, we could just literally print out that list, and again for the prices of the components. So that gives us a nice little summary of the order. I also put in stock levels just for testing to make sure I could see that the stock levels are going down, but I don't suppose the customer would need to know that. So maybe at that point you might want to also print out the order number and perhaps the customer's name again as the final output. In the task sheet it says print 2 copies of the order, one for the customer and one for the shop. I don't know about you, but that strikes me as a bit daft because there's no reason to print it to the screen twice. In a real shop maybe we would print out 2 copies of the receipt, but you know, we're not going to actually print anything here. So I'd feel fairly safe in saying you won't get asked to print something twice in the exam when you're writing pseudocode about this. So I've gone ahead and added in those details. I've just done a little print line here with a title, order summary. I've put in the customer's name, and I've just pasted in the code from above, converting to a string those integer values for the date. Okay, so let's run that through just to check everything works. So there we go, today is March 17th. Please enter your name. So I'm going to be the hilarious microchip. Took me hours to think of that. And then I'm going to enter all the details. 16 GB. You can see I'm a cheapskate, I'm going for all the lower options. 2 ports. There we go. So at the end of that, we've got our order summary, customer name, the date. Oh, I should probably put a space in between those. And then total cost for this PC with the 20% added. You don't necessarily have to do this, but you may as well print out a list of the components and the prices of those components. And then here's my question. So you remember with the for loop, we've got this. This is the input that it's doing now. I think I forgot to mention the dot lower. So all that code there is doing is whatever I type in will be converted to lowercase, making the comparison easier with the options here. So if I type in nope, that's the end of the loop. Okay, so that's set. Keep going to false. The interpreter for Python has gone back up to this line, checked here, and it's now saying while false, so it stopped at that point. Okay, and over here you can see all the variables that have been filled in. Had I pressed yes, we would have gone around the loop again and continued and got a new customer and so on. Okay, so I think that's test 2 done. In the next video we'll look at just a couple of extra things we have to do to finish off test 3 as well.